Good evening, Unity on the Bay. Trying to figure out what my lighting is doing here. It's good to be with you for another exciting adventure in shelf discovery on this beautiful Monday evening in South Florida. This is an interactive program, so let me know that you're with me by posting something into the chat section so that I just at least know that you're here. Hope you're having a good evening. Couple special announcements I want to make before we get rolling into our content tonight, but I'll wait just a few minutes for people to join us. A few minutes, a little too long, I guess, but a few moments. What the heck? But again, let me know you're here by posting something in the chat so that I realize your presence. Hi, Marina. Happy Monday evening to you, my dear. So glad you're here. We're going to be moving through the third agreement in Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. This has become, for me, like a classic spiritual text. Hello, Carlos. Nice to have you here. Greetings, Helga. Thanks for joining us. Happy Monday, Marina. It is a happy Monday. It's been a good Monday since just about the moment I woke up. And I'm always grateful for that and always grateful to be here. Cindy Bender, love you, my dear. Just like old times, 1 hour earlier from the old Mystic Minds class. Hi, Geeta, sending love right back to you and hope you're having a wonderful night. Again, folks, this is an interactive program. I can say that word. So let me know that you're here by posting something in the chat, and then keep on posting your perspectives, your ideas, your opinions, and your philosophies. Pam. Hi, Pam. Welcome. Been giving a donation to Pop-Up Bookstore instead of Shelf Discovery because there's no Shelf Discovery on the menu. Well, that I should be making a note regarding, but thank you for your generosity, Pam. And hi, Jason. Nice to have you here. So that's a comment for Jason, Pam. Oh, and he caught it before I did. So we'll see what we can do. But thanks for bringing that to our attention, Pam. I appreciate it. I was not aware of that. So it's good to know. Just a couple things I wanted to let you all in on before we get into our book tonight. And the first is that this Sunday at Unity on the Bay is a special Sunday. We're having our annual vows renewal ceremony as part of the 11:15 a.m. service Sunday celebration this coming Sunday. And what this means is that for all you married folk, you let us know, go to our website and register so that we know that you're interested in participating in the vows renewal. And then we'll be in touch with you. This is such a beautiful experience, my friends, to see. Anytime we see testimonies of love before us, it's a beautiful thing. And this is going to be happening live at Unity on the Bay at Temple Israel this Sunday at 11:15, vows renewal ceremony. And if you're interested in participating with your partner, please let us know by going to our website, unityonthebay.org. And hello, Vladimir. It's nice to see you too. Well, I don't actually see you, of course, but I can see your name on the screen and I can see that little picture there of you. So thanks for joining us tonight. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we started yesterday to open our recruitment for prayer chaplains at Unity on the Bay. This is our 2022 training program. It's an intensive program. It begins in April with a Saturday morning class, which is online. And thank you, Jason, for posting the renewal of vows registration. So you have that there, folks, if you're interested in this coming Sunday. And if you're interested, or if you've ever considered becoming a prayer chaplain, and I know we have a couple of them on the call right now tonight, this is your opportunity. It starts in April with a Saturday morning class and then moves into 2 weekend intensives in May and June. And we don't have that webpage up yet because we're still working on the final touches, but we will be receiving registrations for that program. So those are the 2 things I wanted to mention about tonight. Hi, June. Hi, Nancy. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. June's asking, will this be done with other churches? The renewal of vows, if that's what you're speaking of, or the prayer chaplain training, both of those are just being sponsored by Unity on the Bay for Unity on the Bayites. Let's see. Yeah, awesome. Okay, here we go, folks. We're rolling with Don Miguel Ruiz's amazing book, The Four Agreements. And tonight we are on the third agreement, which is, as I often say, good to see you too, June. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Cookie. Love to you. Thanks for everybody for being here tonight. The third agreement is, as I like to say often, a piece of cake, a walk in the park. It's just as simple as this. Don't make any assumptions. Don't make any assumptions. Now, that's interesting from my philosophical perspective, because beings as I don't think we really know anything in the absolute sense, and being as I believe life to be a mystery, there's really virtually nothing that I could say I know for absolute certain. Almost everything that I operate from is assumption. And I think whether you agree with that or not, and please let me know what you think, that everything in life is an assumption, and that ultimately at the end of the day, life is a mystery. But it's also true that we at least can come to grips, and this is what I hope to get into tonight, at least come to grips with the idea that most of what we're thinking, we are actually assuming, that we're not actually knowing. And if we can enter into life from that perspective, it brings with us like a question mark. So we don't go into situations and circumstances and relationships with absolute ideas that we absolutely are convinced are true. We go in with inquisitive minds. It's like the curiosity that we study in the art of mindfulness. Nancy replying to Jason Weeks. Same here, Jason. I've been giving. Oh, yeah, we'll get that cleared up. So thank you again, Nancy, for bringing that to our attention. So it's at least worth considering when you're going into a situation or you're taking on. Oh, thank you, Jason. 99.999999999% is all assumption. It's so true. Now, I do believe, just to digress here for a moment, I do believe that we have access to a higher level of intelligence or a higher level of mental activity that does know a lot more than we do. And thus the art of prayer and meditation and experiencing that direct contact with the divine within us. That opens up another dimension. So when I talk about operating out of assumptions, I'm talking primarily operating out of the carnal mind or the egoic mind that thinks it knows everything and walks into situations, don't you know, like it does know everything. But in reality, we know very little. So let's take a look at what Mr. Ruiz has to say here. He says the third agreement is don't make assumptions. We have a tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe that they are true. We could swear they are real. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking, and then we take it personally, which we were talking about last week, not a very good thing to do. And then we blame these individuals and react by sending emotional poison with our word. And this is something we really didn't get into too much in our study of this book on self-discovery. But Ruiz uses the word poison to describe the energy that is accompanied by condemnatory, judgmental analysis of things or people or circumstances. That is why whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make an assumption. We misunderstand. We take it personally, and we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. Has anybody here ever created a whole big drama for no good reason? I've done it over a period of years of time, held on to an assumption that was inaccurate and made a big drama out of it. I've done it sometimes for 5 minutes. I've done it sometimes for 24 hours. Just becoming aware of when we are operating out of assumption, we are misunderstanding another individual, taking it personally, and end up creating drama. Yeah, Jason, drama, never. Yes. Hey, Russell, glad you're here, and thanks for sending me a preview copy of your book. I can't wait to dive into it. And I'm so proud of you for having written it. Maybe someday we'll do it on Shelf Discovery. Okay, he goes on to say, so here we are creating these dramas, and don't you know, life tends to be dramatic enough without us contributing to the drama barometer. All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. He's saying all of the sadness and drama is rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth of this statement. The whole war of control between humans, let me say that again. The whole war of control between humans is about making assumptions and taking things personally. Our whole dream of hell is based on that. So if you're looking to be freed, to be saved from the depths of hell and all of the fire and the punishment, the torment that goes with that, it's worth taking a look at how you might be making assumptions in your life and how you might be taking those assumptions personally. He says, we create a lot of emotional poison just by making assumptions and taking it personally, because usually we start gossiping about our assumptions. Now, we didn't go into a great deal about what Ruiz says about gossip, but he basically says it's the language of separation. And it's the language by which we defile the integrity of our words and speak untruths or, again, condemnatory, judgmental thoughts and statements about other people. Gossiping is the way we communicate to each other in the dream of hell and transfer poison to one another. Because we're afraid to ask for clarification, we make assumptions and believe we are right about the assumptions. Then we defend our assumptions, no less, and try to make someone else wrong. It is better to ask questions than to make an assumption, because assumptions set us up for suffering. Now, this is huge, my friends, and we're hearing more and more about this, living in the question instead of living in the certainty, going into situations in your life, not with your mind made up, but to go in and say, I do not know, as Course in Miracles tells us, I do not know what this is for. So I can go in with an inquiring mind. And, when you go in with your mind made up based on an assumption, you're always going to find the facts to support your position, because you always find what you're looking for. If, on the other hand, you go into situations with an open mind, an inquisitive mind, a questioning mind, then you're free to allow life to communicate with you. And even more importantly, I think you're opening the way through which other people can communicate with you, because you're open-minded and people feel that. They know whether you're going to be receptive to their ideas and their perspectives, instead of going in thinking this is the way it is or this is the way it has to be. Jason, not making assumptions can be fun, actually. It gives room for surprise and excitement. It really does. Every time I travel, that's sort of the mentality that I move into. Try to do it in my day-to-day life, but it's easier for me when I'm traveling. Just to go into the experience and say, this is like an adventure. And I don't know what the adventure holds, but I'm open-minded and I'm willing to let the adventure, what's the word I'm looking for? Reveal to me. I'm willing to let the adventure, which life is, reveal to me what's going on. Thank you, Cookie. Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. Help me get out of my own preconceived ideas about the way things are, the way other people are. Because the reality is, I believe that everything is in a constant state of flux and change anyway. So when you make up your mind, this is the way so-and-so is, they're always that way, always have been and always will be, you're really confining them to your idea or image of who they are, and you're not giving them the freedom to bring into this moment that which they are in this moment. People are changing. You and I change. We're not the same people we were yesterday. There's Cindy. Yep. Love you, Cindy. Yes, Nancy, I could see peace instead of this. And that's what we're after. And the way that we see peace instead of what we're seeing, I believe, is to free ourselves of the constructs and the definitions that we get so rooted in. We carve everything in stone rather than etching it in butter. Gita, is assumption here the same as perception? Thank you, Gita. What I believe is that assumptions contribute to perception, because assumptions establish the content of our consciousness, and consciousness is responsible for how we are perceiving things. Jason, I'm curious to hear from the group, what are some non-assumptions about life? Well, that's a really good one, Jason. That's a good one. I'd like to hear that responses to that as well. Replying. What are some non-assumptions about life? Let's dig into that while we continue listening to these words from Ruiz. But it's a very good question, Jason. I'm glad you said you can't think of any, because I can't either, and that's why I'm going back to the book. I can't. All I do, and I look at what I believe to not be assumption, for me, I further root myself in convincing myself that what I assume is a fact, is reality, is ultimate truth. And I think when you bubble and boil these assumptions down, you come back to, as I said at the onset, you come back to the reality that life is mysterious. And that's okay. We don't have to know everything. I mean, living in a mystery, as Jason was saying earlier, it opens up the possibility for excitement, for seeing things that you had no idea were there, because you were only seeing what was there because you were going in with the assumption that it was true or that it was there. I don't know if I'm making any sense with that, but there is a war on facts out there, fake news. Yeah, really. Like, is there any sense of freedom in knowing that it's all fake news? Something to think about. All right, here's a good example, one that no one here on tonight's broadcast will be able to relate to, I suspect, but I'll throw it out anyway. Ruiz says, here's an example. You decide to get married, and you make the assumption that your partner sees marriage the same way you do. Then you live together and you find out this is not true. Creates a lot of conflict, but you still don't try to clarify your feelings about marriage. The husband comes home from work and the wife is mad. The husband doesn't know why. Maybe it's because the wife made an assumption. Without telling him what she wants, she makes the assumption that he knows her so well that he knows what she wants, as if he can read her mind. She gets so upset because he fails to meet her expectations. Making assumptions in relationships leads to a lot of fights, a lot of difficulties, a lot of misunderstandings with people we supposedly love. All right, let's see what's going on here. Cindy, knowing that the universe is made up of infinite possibilities, so why narrow it down to assumptions? Thank you, Cindy. We are always in a field of, I believe, infinite possibilities. So why do we? And I think some of this comes out of our egoic need to have a sense of control, to know, not only to think we know what's going on, but to think that we know what's going on better than anyone else knows what's going on, which is so presumptuous and eliminates us from the possibility of being impacted by one another. If I go into a relationship and I think I know something, and I think what I know is more valuable or significant than what you know, like, lots of luck, you know? Nancy, thank you, Nancy. Jason, I've been working on staying in the present moment instead of elaborating dramatic stories in my mind. Yeah, it is just that. It is staying in the present moment and being able to better monitor ourselves, I think, when we are moving into the dramatic realm, when we are making up stories. This is where objectivity becomes so important, the ability to observe ourselves, remembering that in our true identity, we are not this physical body. We are not even our thoughts and feelings and our concepts, and some even say we're not our minds. We have the ability to observe all of that. And when we observe it as though we were watching a program on television or something, we have a level of objectivity that keeps us from diving headfirst into situations in life that are avoidable, I believe. So I don't see too many people responding to Jason's question about the non-assumption positions in life. That I am actually happy to hear, because I believe it means we're all an open-minded gathering of individuals. And that's a beautiful thing, and so important, I believe, on the spiritual path. Keep the mind open. The moment you close your mind, like Cindy says, you're narrowing that field of possibilities. It's only a movie, my stepfather used to say. Thank you, Nancy. Ruiz would say something very similar. He'd say, it's only a dream. We're dreaming all of this up, and a lot of it is avoidable. So I love this example about the married couple, and about, this is so often the case in our relationships, especially and often with those that are nearest and dearest to us. I call it hip pocket expectations. Hip pocket expectations. And what that means is that we go into relationships, especially new relationships. Row, row, row your boat. Thank you, Pam. Everybody all together, gently down the stream. Life is but a dream. So I think we go into relationships with these, what I call hip pocket expectations. These are expectations that we hold, and sometimes we're not even completely aware of them, but we keep them in a little piece of paper in our pocket, and we don't tell anybody about them, especially if we're meeting somebody for the first time and we really want to set a good impression. Then we keep our expectations, our hip pocket expectations, in our pocket, and we don't let anybody know that they're there. Number one, we assume that people ought to know what we think and what we are desiring and requesting in a relationship, because we assume that everybody's operating out of the same set of assumptions that we are. See how convoluted this gets. And the way that you discover that somebody has a hip pocket expectation is when they violate it. And this often comes as a surprise to the violator, because they had no idea the expectation existed, because it was never communicated to them clearly. I think it's Brene Brown who says that clarity is kindness, making clear what it is that you are looking for, what you're desiring. And Jason says, you're assuming that I even know my own expectations. Well, and we don't always. They are there, but we're not always aware of them. That's true. So sometimes it's a mutual surprise. Somebody violates an expectation that you didn't even know you were holding until it was violated. Now they're in a state of shock and you're in a state of shock, and communication becomes thwarted because nobody's really talking about what they want, or nobody's really bringing clarity to the communication. This turns into two convoluted collections of assumptions, helter-skelter, crashing into each other, and reminds me of what I am sure I have said on this program before, but I will say it again, the George Bernard quotation when he said, the only problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Because you got your field of awareness and expectation and assumption going on over here, and I've got mine. So how do we bring these together? And part of this, I think, has to do with humility and realizing that we're not in this game alone, that we really do need each other, and that we need to allow each other to impact one another. And we do that by keeping our minds open, by recognizing to the best of our ability when we're clinging to expectations or assumptions, either one, and mastering to the best of our ability the art of really listening. Because, people can tell us things, and if we're all locked up in our world of assumptions and our dream or our movie, we may not even be able to hear what they're saying. So it's about opening our minds and our hearts and being truly present when we are in communication with other individuals. We talked a bit about that last week. A few more minutes remaining. Eduardo. Hello, Eduardo. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Just a couple things that I highlighted in here because I thought they were interesting. They're very brief, but here's one of them. We have agreed that it is not safe to ask questions. We have agreed that if people love us, they should know what we want or how we feel. And sometimes we don't even like to be asked questions. Again, it's all operating out of assumption. He says, we make the assumption, and this is pure gold, we make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume that others think the way we think, that they feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. This is interesting, because we talk about our unity in unity with one another as children of God. We also try to remember and express that we are individualized expressions, which means every single person on the planet. And I think Ruiz was talking about this a week or two ago. Every single person on this planet is living in their own dream. They're living in their own version of reality. And when you realize that, I think it humbles you a bit, because it helps you to realize that there are multiple perceptions and that they are all valid and that yours is only one of them. And it's necessary to know that, but it's not necessary to run around defending it or to be putting other people down because you think your position is better than theirs. Cookie says, having expectations can set us up for disappointment. Striving to have few, let go over and over. And, like everything we study on this program, my friends, this is all about practice. Thank you, Cookie. Because, just about that moment you think you've arrived and you're enlightened, you're going to get another round of opportunities to further practice this truth until it becomes so integrated in one's being that it becomes the go-to. It becomes the natural response. Jason, thank you. I'm finding that communication is so darn clunky and drawn out if you really want to communicate to try to eliminate confusion and assumptions. Yes. And now more and more people are communicating with emojis, which leaves so much room for assumption. And it doesn't just stop there. It's the whole, thank you, Jason. It's the whole electronic experience. When you are not visually observing someone as they communicate with you, you miss a lot of the communication, maybe even the majority of it, because the majority of communication isn't in the words. It's in the essence of the individual who is trying to communicate, or the individuals. And it does call us to raise our commitment to effective communication when so much of what we're communicating is in the world of technology and through means just such as this. Well, thank you, Jason. I think you're right too, but then that's an assumption that you think I'm right. It's an assumption that I think you're right, but at least you see, we know that it's assumption. I think that gives us an edge. Anyway, my beloved friends, can't thank you enough for spending your Monday evenings with me. This is so sweet. And I'm looking forward to wrapping up the 4 agreements next week. And then we have another great book we're going to be moving into. But I really, really appreciate your presence here. I'm sure I say this probably almost every week, but I think when we come together like this and open a forum for this kind of communication, we're really just not impacting our lives, which is almost enough in itself to live a better life. But we actually create an exchange, an open-minded exchange that improves this world for everybody. I love you too, June. Love you, Russell. Thanks, everybody, for coming in tonight. We'll see you next Monday evening, 6 p.m. for another exciting episode of Shelf Discovery. And as my friend Kevin Rice often says, if no one's told you this today, let me be the first. I love you. Good night.